Hello and welcome to Creative Wonder, the podcast where we talk shop, spill secrets, and occasionally pretend we have everything figured out. I'm your host, Tay Hislop. I've always been curious about how other creatives run their businesses, how they find clients, market themselves, and somehow turn ideas into actual income. So I made this podcast as an excuse to ask them all those questions. Each episode, I sit down with creative professionals to dig into their marketing strategies, how they use photography, and the real story behind how they got to where they are. All right, let's get into it. Hey, Amy, it's so good to see you. How you been?
So good to see you as well. I've been good. How about you? It's been a while.
I know. I really enjoyed working with you on that educational strategy report thing where we went into a school and, I did the photographs for it, but you were my art director and eventually used them in your graphic design that you did. So I really love your work that I've seen on your website, by the way. So
thank you so much.
I'm going to include a link to it if I can in the podcast on Spotify. So let's see if that works for people to be able to link. Have you ever uploaded links? Because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't
funky know. In the show notes kind of thing or that kind of thing.
Yeah, you can do it. It's just there's a way. You got to be verified first, and you got to prove yourself and things like that. So, anyways, I'm very excited to talk to you about graphic design because that's your specialty, right?
That is my specialty. Heck yes.
Yeah, and I want to know, how you got to be where you are in your career. What was your journey? Did you go to school? Did you, intern with other people, or did you have any mentors? Just what brought you to where you are?
Totally. I feel like it's a long-winded answer. So I'll go and you cut me off if you're like, I'm over this. Let's move on.
No, take as much time as you need. It's all good.
So originally I went to Laurier in Waterloo. That's actually, I'm here now again, but this is how I got here, is that I went to Laurier for communications. And long story short of it, I feel like in the time that I was going to university or college, that kind of thing, university was seen as the be and end all. And I went and then I was like, it was great and all. And I loved the experience, met a lot of really awesome people. But I didn't really learn things that I could put into skill or practice in the working world. And so I actually did an internship the second last summer before I was almost done. And they're like, what have you learned? Show us your skills. And I was like, I know the history of the radio. I ended up actually just cutting it short and graduating with a general Bachelor of Arts kind of thing. Because I was like, okay, I want to have actual skills that I can use. And while I was in this internship, there was a graphic designer there. And it was at kind of a car dealership, and I was working in the marketing department. And this gal was, to me, it looked like she was just photoshopping all day, every day. I'm like, the dream. What is this job that you're doing? I don't have Photoshop, but I had a fake version of it kind of thing. And I was like, I know how to do that. That's a dream. You're just doing that every day. You're just photoshopping. You're making art for this car dealership. That's amazing. And so I really didn't know that graphic designer was a job or career or anything. And so this kind of opened my eyes to it, and it changed my life. I was like, okay, done. Let's look at some programs. So I ended up going to George Brown on kind of an express advanced diploma kind of thing at the School of Design. Stunning. It felt like summer camp, honestly. It was very hard work. It was a ton of work. It felt like more work than university, to be honest with you. There was no time for partying. And I was like, my gosh, I'm laying all my work into this juice packaging or whatnot. You know what I mean? These funny projects. But it was really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. And it gave me kind of that hands-on experience that I needed to go into the field and not feel like a pro by any means. Because we all know once you're in, you're like, okay, there's a lot of things I didn't learn. But it gave me enough to feel confident that I could go and be like, okay, I have something to offer. I have an understanding of what we're starting with, and I'm ready to learn kind of thing. So that was really cool. And then I actually came to Waterloo to help my boyfriend at the time work on a food truck because I couldn't find a design job right out of college. And it was the summer, and he'd opened this food truck. The guy he was supposed to work with fell through. I cannot cook, let me tell you. It was not a good idea. But I was like, yes, I'm supportive. I'm ready to go. So I came, I worked on the food truck. It was a good relationship tester for sure. But then I was like, okay, we can only do this for so long. I'm definitely not meant to do this. I should find a job. So I ended up going to this speed dating thing in Waterloo, and came across this wonderful lady that worked at this company called Him and Her in Kitchener at the time. And I was like, I only want to work for you. Please hire me. If you don't want to hire me, I'm going to go back to Toronto and try my best there kind of thing. And she's like, we're not hiring. And I was like, well, that's a problem. Okay. This ruins my whole plan. What the heck? And then long story short, my thesis for college was creating these jeans that I had screen printed. And I ended up dropping off like 15 pairs of jeans to their office after this call or after this meeting with her. And I was like, I know you're not hiring, but I'm just going to take one last shot at the barrel. Like, here's a bunch of jeans that I screen printed for the office. If you want to look at them, just so you remember me, if something comes up, I'm going to be here for like another month and then I have to go. And she ended up calling me and she's like, okay, you got me with the jeans. It's very strange. Come in. Let's see if we can find something for you. And I ended up kind of wiggling my way in, and I worked there for about 4 years. And it was great. It was a fantastic company. I learned a bunch. It was a creative agency. And it kind of gave me the jackknife skills to be able to do a lot of different things and find out what I really liked. And that was kind of when I found out that I was really interested in branding and working with small businesses. And then I had a child and I was like, I don't know how two people work corporate jobs in 9 to 5 in like a stressful environment. So I was like, this I think is the perfect time to kind of pivot and change what I'm doing.
And then go into your own business, right?
Yes, totally.
I love that. It's very interesting to hear people's, journey to where they are and stuff like that. I love that you made such a memorable impression with the people at Him and Her. Like, I remember long time ago when I was just in college for photography, and we had, some co-op placements or whatever. And at the very end of one, like I had done one it was like a factory photography studio where they would do all the Sears stuff, they would do all the, they would make the rooms to show off like the bedding and the curtains, and they would, have people wear the clothes, and they would do shots of jewelry, whatever would go into a catalog, right? Like this was before there was a lot of digital online shopping. So it was more catalogs or being in person, point of sale purchase kind of pictures, things like that. And on the very last day, I remember going around and just dropping off like a flower to each person I had worked with, just to be like, thank you so much for letting me be here. And sure enough, I got a call back because of that. And I think doing memorable things like that is not something a lot of people think to do. Like they don't go that extra mile to make people remember them. And I like the way that yours was so strange, like dropping off jeans.
I know.
How many pairs of jeans was it?
Pardon?
I said, how many pairs of jeans was it?
I think it was like 15 pairs of jeans, and they were all donated jeans to me. So it was like sisterhood of the traveling pants. Like they might fit, they might not. It's like very up in the air kind of thing. But no, I love that idea with the flower too. Anything, I feel like in the creative industry too, people are more open to do kind of a bit more off the wall or something that's maybe not stock standard. They appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Like having a boob on the wall behind you.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how I actually tell like if a client's a good fit or not. We see the boob and they're like, if they're scared, then it's a good, okay, maybe we're not the right.
How big would you say that is on the wall behind you? Like how big is that artwork that you have there?
I don't know.
Like 4 feet, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably 3 or 4 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely makes a memorable experience.
We had them up in our house before we sold in our real estate, and was like, we're going to need to take those down. Yeah. I was like, that's fair. Okay.
All right. So think back to your childhood or your teenagehood or whatever it was. When did you start thinking about design or thinking about artwork? Like, do you remember the first thing you designed?
Okay. It's so funny. Everyone that I've worked with, well, like a large portion of the people I've worked with, that kind of thing, have kind of that great story where they were a great drawer as a young child, or like someone introduced them to art and it's like so beautiful. My mom is an interior designer, so I feel like that was always like something that I was aware of, and we were a part of kind of her process along the way, whether it was by choice or by not, going to fabric stores and whatnot. But other than that, I was not I was not drawing anything that was cute, or I didn't overly like drawing, that kind of thing. Even I tried to take like an art class in high school, and they were like, I was like a sports kind of gal. And so they're like, Amy, what are you doing? No. So honestly, I didn't do anything until university and getting kind of that rip-off version of Photoshop and making like Facebook profile photos for my friends. And that was really my introduction. In college, for a portfolio, you have to submit like a drawings and things on paper. And honestly, it was childly, like the things that I
Mine
submitted.
too. Mine
Right?
too.
You have to do that for photography too?
Absolutely. Like you
Oh,
had to have an
wow.
interview before you actually got accepted, like an
Right.
in-person interview. I don't know if they still do that nowadays. I mean, that was 30 years ago, right? So, but I remember being out of the country because I was doing some schooling in Sweden for a year. And so a lot of them were like, oh, if you can't make it, can't make it. So there's a limited amount of universities and colleges that were, able to interview me when I got back.
Wow.
And Humber College was one of those. And I remember going in with this like binder of photos I had taken, all black and white. I'd actually printed them in the high school dark room, whatever. But I mean, they were so childish. They were so like bad. I mean, they're my friends, pictures of my
Oh, heck
friends,
yeah.
and like, when you're in high school, you're not very good at anything.
You're like, this is a great photo. Like, this person looks so cute. Love
And
that.
I remember going in, and the guy that was interviewing me was one of the photography teachers, and he like looked over my stuff, and he didn't really say anything in regards to it, but I don't think he really liked it. And he basically tried to talk me out of coming to
What?
college. And he's like, you got to have real discipline to be able to go into this program, and you're going to have to like make sacrifices and, you know, so on and so forth. The thing I like about it is that I kind of get that personality where if you say like, you're not going to be able to do this, then I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be able to do this. So I'm going to try even harder.
I wonder if that was his method or if he just was very concerned.
I don't know. I feel like back then I probably looked like a country bumpkin or something.
Didn't we all?
And he was probably not taking me very seriously. And, that was like, I don't know what year that was, like 2000 or the 90s. I don't know. But, it was a different era, right? Like photography was a man's world. There wasn't like a ton of women doing it. And I think when he saw me come in and this binder full of like crappy little photos that I was trying to show him, and he's like, she's not going to make it. And he said to me specifically, in the first year, half of the students that go to this program are going to drop out. Are you going to
Wow.
be one of them? And I was like, I am definitely not going to be one of them. Like, and not that I knew I would succeed, but I feel like when you put my back up against it like
Yeah.
that, I'm like, well, now I'm really going to try harder to
100%.
prove you wrong,
1,000%. Yeah.
So like you didn't really think about design until like you were into university?
No.
Okay. And then you got out and then what? Like, what did you design first? Like, was it the jeans thing?
When my first job that I got was like while I was in college kind of thing. I was working at a merchandising company, like someone that if you needed golf balls for a golf tournament, they like put your logo on it kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it was by my cottage. And I was like trying to find a way that I could get a job that was kind of related, but also was by my cottage.
Yeah.
And so it was entertaining. It was great. And I learned a lot, but it was very much like we were getting a lot of like JPEG logos from people where the background's like flattened into the logo, but they wanted it on a t-shirt or something. So like a lot of production work of trying to like figure out how to get the JPEG to look kind of decent so we could put it on this t-shirt or embroider it or whatnot. So it was a good intro.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I remember the days when Photoshop was like brand new and it was so clunky but we were still excited about it. And nowadays, like you just press a button and the background's gone. It's like
It's
crazy
crazy.
how much has come along.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about your design style nowadays, because you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, do you have a certain style to it? Is it something people would recognize, or is it more subtle?
That's a great question. I saw that too, and I was thinking on it. I think it's so funny after working at an agency where you kind of have to be like a chameleon of sorts, where your style needs to be quite versatile. I think I take that with me a little bit because with every client, I want it to be more about the client style and their brand and kind of what essence they're looking to show. But if I was doing work for myself or even some work, I'd say maybe putting some 3D into it, that kind of thing. I think that's been something that I'm becoming known for because I do really love to mesh branding or projects with some 3D design because I think it's so cool.
What program do you use for that?
A Cinema 4D. Have you heard of that one?
I haven't.
There's a few now. It's crazy. It's very cool. I think it's one of the more industry standards, I would say, but is a bit more pricey.
Mm.
Blender does similar, but is free, which is nice.
So I'm more familiar with Blender, though I've never
Okay.
used it, but my brother has done a bunch of 3D
Ooh,
modeling for people. Some of it's been like products, but some of it's also been like interiors and exteriors of buildings or
very
so,
cool.
but I don't know a lot about it. And it's interesting when you explain it to me and I hear more about it. So I know you do like a lot of different things. Like, well, I
Yeah.
shouldn't say that. You specialize in, branding and packaging and illustration and 3D stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Branding is my bread and butter. It is my favorite. I That's why I do offer the packaging and like web design or 3D illustration, but I really try and focus on branding. And if there's someone that comes on and they're looking for a brand and we can bring some of those other aspects into it, an amazing, perfect fit. My ideal client is a branding project.
And what would that kind of entail? I'm thinking logo, colors, fonts. What else?
Totally. Normally, a lot of strategy at the beginning, kind of creating what's your story, what are kind of those golden nuggets that make you stand out from your competitor, and then yes, exactly, a brand package of a logo, probably secondary logo, maybe a brand mark. Like if you're thinking Nike, the swoosh, that'd be a
Hmm.
brand mark, and then typography. What are we using kind of on our website? What are we using on social media? And then the colors, as well as a brand guide, which I think is forever changing now in today's industry, but some sort of PDF or a website that says kind of guides you. And then let's say your company has many other employees or people you work closely with. How do we use this brand without butchering it? How do
Hmm.
we all make it look cohesive? Because I'm sure we've all seen things where the brand looked really awesome here, and then we got a new person or something, you know what I mean? And they had a new idea, and it got sidetracked a little bit. Trying to get away from that a little bit.
So, Helvetica, love it or hate it?
I love it. I gotta be honest,
Gosh.
it feels like kind of like vintage. It's like a form of perfection. I'm like, I'm not touching it. I like it.
It's so versatile. And to be honest, I use a variation of it myself in my
Like,
own
yeah.
logo.
Like, yeah. Oh,
But it
yeah.
is, I feel like it's a little overused because
Yeah.
everyone is using it, right? But at the same time, it's pretty versatile. It's pretty neutral. Like it's pretty, I don't know how you describe it, but it's easy for people to use it because of how it looks and it's easy to look at. So I don't know. I
100%.
like it.
Me
But
too. Yeah.
all right. So what's your typical workflow from beginning to end? Like say someone comes to you, how do you go about figuring out what they want and working through that process to deliver, what they need?
Yeah. I think I'm going to use branding as an example, but I think even the project we worked on is kind of similar to this workflow. A lot of projects work in that same kind of step by step of starting out, let's say contract deposit at the beginning kind of thing, and then jumping into a form of a discovery call. Really hashing out, okay, I normally have like a crazy laundry list of questions. Let's really get everything on the table because the more that I know, even if we're not going to use all of that information, the more that I know, the better I know you, the better I can create things, create that story, create a visual that matches up with that story. And I find it, even if it's really, really simple, like I love a simple, strong brand that has a lot of integrated story, but it's not cluttered, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So really starting with strategy, diving into some visual concepts. So let's say some mood boards, some directions. For you and I, we did a layout project. So, hey, here's what some layouts might look like. What do we think?
Hmm.
Making sure that's approved, making sure we're all on the same page. Then moving into, okay, we're diving into, for a brand, we're diving into really building out some of those brand marks, some of those logos. We're finalizing and customizing the typography, the colors. We're double checking that it's all accessible. So, your website really likes those colors and they like the way that they're working together. Bringing in some photography. I love to show like visual examples like, okay, these, even if, okay, we're not going to do the photography right now for a brand, here are some examples of visuals that we should aim towards, like all lighter color, or we have striking people in the images. You know what I mean? Like giving
Hmm.
some kind of guidance of let's try and stick within this visual look and feel so that if many people do touch the brand, we all have a cohesive look and feel for the visuals. If it's photography, if it's illustration, that guidance as well. And then really just making sure that we're confirmed on that and then diving into building out those assets. the brand guide as an asset, building out anything that you have individually as a deliverable. So let's say signage, print materials like business cards, stationery, social media templates are a crazy popular one right now. And then sometimes websites is the next step after that of building that out and what that looks like as well.
I remember when we worked together, I got to see the mock-ups that you did for the school. It was so funny because, there's two very different styles, different color, themes for each one. And I really liked the green one, personally. That was the
I
one I
love them.
liked. And then, but they ended up going with the blue one because that was their colors,
Yeah.
which makes sense. But I was like, but the green feels, but I get it. I get it.
No, that project was lovely because your photography was so great that honestly, I'm like the sports bra. Like I was just supporting the gorgeous asset. You know what I mean? Like I have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
just
yeah.
make sure everything else looks clean and nice and it's supporting the photography. That you were doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, but it was so great to have you there to direct what was happening because you knew how the photos would be used mostly, like
Totally.
we need to do a vertical here because of this page and we need to do like a big, banner shot here and a square one here. Like you knew how it was going to be used. So it was great to have you there to be able to like direct it a bit and give me that feedback because without it, then you're just like, how do I fit this picture here? And, you
100%.
know, I feel like a lot of people do that where they just like, let's take a whole bunch of pictures. We don't know how we're going to use them, but like we'll hope for the best. And then you're limited in how you can use them because you haven't planned ahead.
Honestly, that was the dream that they did it that way, and I love that and appreciate that because that is normally the situation that I would come into where it's like, okay, we have all these awesome photos
Hmm.
that we took time and we invested in, and now we need you to use them to your best of your ability, which I love a puzzle. We can work with it, but not the most ideal situation.
Are there certain software programs or things that you use that are, an everyday occurrence that you love?
Yes. I love Adobe. I feel like there's people coming up with things that are like similar to Adobe trying to figure out if you can get away from it, but I feel like I've been using it for too long. I'm too much of a fangirl, but Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, InDesign, even Adobe XD, I think that one's a little bit on the outs from what I gather. Like Figma, I think is the next up and coming for web design, but
Hmm.
I still love it. And then Cinema 4D and Octane as the renderer. Those are what I use for my 3D designs.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I am also an Adobe person. I like it. Just probably because I've been using it for so long and I really don't want to switch and have to learn something new.
I
But
only imagine you're like a whiz in Photoshop.
there is one thing that I really hate is
Oh,
that I'm a Photoshop person, right? And I know all the shortcuts and keys that you'd press. But when you go into Adobe Illustrator, they're all
mhm.
different.
They are.
All the tools have different ways of working
I
and
know.
different shortcuts and different. I'm like, why wouldn't they be the same? It's all Adobe,
I
like,
know.
but I mean, if that's my biggest complaint, I don't use Illustrator that much, to be honest. I used it a
That's
few
fair.
times for making brochures for some clients, but it's not something I use on a daily basis. So it's more frustrating to me to go into
100%.
that world and be like, I feel so lost in the tools and how to use them.
Definitely. I feel that way going into Photoshop sometimes because I'm sure you would look at my workflow in Photoshop and be like, girl, you're doing it so slow. There's so many faster ways to do that. You know what I mean?
I know Adam's always asking me questions. So how do you do this in Photoshop? And how do you do that in Photoshop? And can you just help me quickly? Because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm
I
like, yeah,
love that.
no problem. Okay, so typography. I want to know what your approach is to figuring out what you're going to use and how you're going to use it. Do you start with like a type that you really want to use, or do you just let it evolve as you do the design?
Yeah. I find a great example is the strategic document that we did. Is before I would show it to the client, I would match up kind of like, okay, what's H1, H2, subhead, body copy? Like, what do those headers look like? And then how are they working together? I do a lot of those combinations in Illustrator or whatnot, just kind of roughing out, seeing how things are looking together. And then once I find maybe one or two combinations that I'm really set on, maybe putting those on a mood board to visually show to get the client's approval. But yeah, once those are locked in, honestly, I'm a very black and white person. So once they're locked in, I like to, especially for something like that strategic document where it's multiple pages, like versus maybe a poster or something like that, I'd say, okay, the line has been drawn in the sand and we have selected and there's no going back unless there's some major problem.
Hmm.
This is the way we're going for sure.
How do you design for emotional impact?
Yes.
Do you think about that ahead of time as far as like, I want people to feel calm when they see this. I want people to feel excited. I want to, enrage people to be able to, do something for the greater good. Like, what is your process there?
100%. I think emotional impact. I love that way of describing it. Actually, that's wonderful. I think that's kind of my main goal overall, like creating a good strategy, a good story, and then the visual design needs to have that emotional impact. That's kind of, I think, the most important part. Honestly, even I'm working on branding myself right now, which I have been a freelancer for maybe 3 years, and I started out with a design that I quickly threw together just to make do. And then now I'm finally coming to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to do what I'm telling other people to do and pull it together. And that's exactly something that I was conflicted on. I was like, I want it to be this emotional feeling when I look at it. I want it to be kind of like moody and cool. And then I had a complete change of thought. I was doing the moody and cool, and I'm like, this isn't the feeling that I'm hoping someone, let's say, comes to my website, and this isn't the feeling that I want them to experience. I want them to feel that, exactly what you're saying, that calm, that like sophistication. I want them to feel not rushed into any decisions. I think that branding is already overwhelming in itself, and I want them to feel a very like minimal and approachable feeling when they go onto the website or they see my social media or something like that. And so that's something definitely top of mind that I'm always kind of referring back to, refreshing, making sure that we're always hitting that touch point no matter what deliverable we're putting together.
I like that. That's good that you are thinking ahead to those kinds of things. And I did notice that you were like putting out feelers there online to see what other people liked. And, some people were saying this and some people were saying that. And I was like, yeah, go for the calming, like green, whatever. So that's good to get that feedback from people,
Yeah.
right? Then it's a little bit more, there's validity in doing the right thing there. So,
It's kind of cool too, because when you do a client project, like we couldn't put our client project on the internet and say, "What do you think?" You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like it's already done. We don't want. We only want to hear. It's like a tattoo now. We only want to hear it's good. But for your own, you have like a little bit more room, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, say your worst, and let's massage it out.
Yeah. What sort of psychological triggers do you think make a logo or a brand identity truly memorable?
I think a really good story and really good strategy. I think that it's so easy to see something online visually that you think is really cool. And I don't even want to say copy it, because I think that people that copy things, I don't think they even mean to fully copy them. I think they just psychologically keep looking back at it and think they're doing something different. And sometimes it comes out as too close for comfort.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that if you have strategy and you are pulling from your own story and you're building that into your visual identity, it's going to be unique. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be something funky. People are going to remember you. And even it's like the example of like me having boobs on the wall. That's like a weird thing. You know what I mean? So like someone's going to listen to this podcast. They're not going to remember my name. They're not,
Hmm.
they might remember that I was a designer, that kind of thing. They're going to be like, what's that designer with the boobs on the wall? You know what I mean? Like, you need that little golden nugget that's kind of like a little bit unhinged.
Mm,
They're like, yes, I don't know how I'm going to Google designer with boobs on the wall, but we're going to get there. We're going to figure it out.
that's awesome. I feel like I need to work on something like that. Maybe not the same thing you have,
Yeah.
obviously, but something truly memorable. And if you have any ideas, let me know. I
Amazing.
remember there was a photographer in the States, and his thing was he just wore red shoes all the time, which I know is pretty
Wow.
simple, but
Yeah.
he was the photographer in the red shoes. Like everyone knew who you were talking about if you said, "Oh, that's the guy, the one that wears red shoes."
100%.
But I don't know. I feel like maybe I should brand myself a bit more in some way, but I don't know what yet.
I don't know, but you know what? Until I had run into you, I hadn't worked or seen a photographer even online really in kind of my community that was doing like the level of photography that you were doing.
Oh,
Like I
really?
and you tell me if that's insulting, but I'm saying like a more corporate level photography.
Okay,
I
great.
hadn't seen that kind of thing before. Yeah, and I was like, who is that? I need to bookmark this, because I always have clients that are looking for really high-end kind of corporate, very professional looking photography. And I know a lot of maybe more like wedding style photographers or like maybe blog kind of style photographers, but not so much corporate.
I don't think there are tons that just specialize in commercial
Okay.
photography, corporate photography, whatever you would call it. A lot of photographers that are outside of big cities, like outside of Toronto, would tend to do a little bit of everything just because there's not as big of a market for being so niche in
Right.
one thing. But I just don't want to do any of the retail,
That's
stuff like
amazing.
weddings and things. I want to do marketing images. That's what I want to do. Whether that's business portraits or lifestyle shots or architecture or a little bit of product, like that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. And I hope that kind of in some way, you know, makes me stand out a little bit more. So we'll see.
Did to me.
Oh, good, good.
Fingers crossed for you.
Do you have any like people that have inspired you, like other designers?
So many. Okay, I
So many.
actually when I saw this question, I was like, "Okay, I need to have some on hand." I pulled in I have like an inspo folder. I don't
Hmm.
know about you. It's a deep one.
Totally.
But here are like some hot top ones. Trevor Fever is his name.
Hmm.
Trevor Whitley, something like that. Emily Filler, she's like a collage artist. I find a lot of these people aren't even graphic designers. They're like visual artists
Hmm.
or sculptural artists or something like that. Ellen Rhett, Wade and Letta, they are graphic designers or in that realm. And then Wally the Wizard.
Wally the Wizard. Who's that? And what do they do?
That was my inspo, kind of the top of my inspo folder.
Hmm.
That right now I was like, these are very cool. And I think it's just one of those things where it might not be a direct reflection into the designs that I'm working on or a project that I'm working on, but just things that kind of like tickle your brain and get you thinking differently about the way they're using color or even textures and things like that, and how I could kind of be inspired by that.
I find that if I have someone call and say, "Oh, I want to get a portrait done, but I want it to be a little different," I get very excited. And
Oh heck
I
yeah.
start like, pinning things on my Pinterest board and for inspiration and seeing like I could try this new lighting technique or, I could do this differently or use a different lens that, blurs the background more, gives you
Heck
that
yeah.
bokeh feel or, it's very exciting to try new things. I mean, there's always the same old, business portraits that are pretty standard for the industry, but then to be able to do something like if a person is in a job that's not your formal like financial planner or lawyer or whatever, then if they have a more creative job, like say you, for example, like if
Yeah.
you were to get a portrait done, you have more leeway to be able to experiment with something a little different, and that's where I like, even in business portraits, I do want to push it a bit too. Like, just can we introduce a little bit of something more interesting just to, so it's not like everyone
So just
else's, but, and then like I'll do a few different like variations. We'll try different backgrounds, different clothes, a different lighting setup, and then they can choose what they like and pick their favorites from there. But yeah, I do love getting inspiration from people. I'm not going to like outright copy it, but just to see how people light things differently or,
oh, heck yeah.
use different colors or I don't know, even just poses, it's good to get inspiration on how you could pose people differently.
I believe that. I feel like with the internet nowadays, it's crazy. It just feels like a black hole of knowledge and information. I feel like most people are pretty good at not kind of gatekeeping, but telling a wealth of either their setup, what camera they're using, whatnot, what kind of lighting. Do you find that, or does it kind of get maybe a little less informative at your level?
I think people nowadays are a lot more collaborative and open about how they're doing things. Like when I first started out in the photography industry, it was like every man for themselves and you
Oh
do
no.
not share information with other people and you just, you guess at what your prices should be and
Yes.
you don't talk shop with other photographers if you get together. But nowadays it's like the exact opposite, I have several friends that are photographers and we love talking about the business and helping each other out and giving each other ideas on what you should do you know, and I find that is the same online as well. Like not all the time, but there will be some photographers who will post a picture and then in the comments below they'll have like pictures of behind the scenes their lighting setup,
Um,
which I love to see personally because I'm like, oh, they did that differently. Maybe I should try something like that sometime. And then other times I'm like, that's I'd hate that lighting
yeah,
style.
not
I'm
doing
not
that.
going to do that. But no, I think there's definitely a lot more open sort of feel to how other photographers are doing things. The only thing people don't really talk about a lot is pricing. And I've talked to my friends about it, like my photographer friends. So we kind of know what each other is charging and trying to, we don't want to like really outprice each other or underbid each other a lot. Like we kind of want to have like a generally similar
Heck yeah.
pricing structure so that it's more about, oh, I want to use this person because of their style,
Yeah.
not because they're the cheaper person, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah. Transparency is fantastic.
So when it comes to you designing different things and using photography in your designs, how do you go about making sure that the photography aligns with your design and that it doesn't overwhelm your design, but also just is cohesive and works well and is balanced?
Yeah. I think really just I think a great example is the document that we did. Like I said, like your photography was outstanding and really it was the star of the show. And I
Ah,
knew that my job was not to overwhelm that or overshadow that in any way because that was what it was all about. And so that was a dream. I was just, okay, how do we support this photography in a way that it's not overwhelming? There's not too much happening. I know we had some illustrations, but like very light. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let's do those, but only in a way that they're going to lift up the photography and it's not going to be you're opening this spread and you're overwhelmed by where should we look? What's there's too many things going on. So really I think when there's great photography, just keeping a lot of the other assets somewhat minimal and knowing when is the time to kind of elevate that photography and when is the time to use another asset of some sorts kind of thing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like that. Do you ever design outside of work just for
Oh my
fun?
gosh. Too
Do
much.
you? Too
Too much. You
much?
know what? Now I just had another little human. So my time has been a little less open and free. But before this, it was like, oh my gosh, it's dangerous. People are like, what are you doing for fun? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm obviously designing like this weird hairy ball that spins. What are you doing on your weekend?
I know for me, everyone expects me to just carry a camera around everywhere I go, and it's not the case at all. Like, I love what I do, but that's
Yeah.
my work. So when I go on vacation, like, I'll just take my phone. And I
Oh, I
know
love that. Okay.
it's like a break for me, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to carry a heavy camera around and feel like, here's the thing. If I have a camera on vacation, I'll feel like I'll have to put a lot of effort into taking
Yeah.
great photos. And that's like a burden to me.
100%.
Um, whereas if I have a phone, and don't get me wrong, I'll try and take decent photos, but it's more like, quick and dirty a little bit more. And I can just blame it on the phone if it doesn't look that great.
100%. 100%. Yeah, you're not gonna, like, bring your professional camera and take, like, a snapshot real quick. You're gonna be, like, setting all the f-stop
Mhm.
and whatnot kinda thing.
And don't forget, like, I'm traveling with other people, with kids, wrangling, two
There's no
boys.
time.
I don't have time to be doing great photography on
No.
my vacation. Like, if I went by myself, or maybe even just with Adam, but maybe I would consider doing an actual nice camera to take some, like, great shots. But, I mean, when you're vacationing with kids, you don't have time for that.
I even feel worried for your camera. Like, I'm sure your kids are great. My kids I'm like, that, sandwich, like, there's 50% chance it's on the camera.
The only thing I don't like is, a lot of times I won't think ahead to how I'm gonna use these photos.
Oh,
And, if I go on a really nice trip, like we were just in Japan for a few weeks, and I made a photo book for my husband. He doesn't know about it.
I love
And,
yeah,
oh my gosh, these things are so expensive and they take so much time to do, even though they're like automated. You still wanna like, rearrange things and
of course.
add in text and stuff like that. But like, I don't often think about like, what's going to be the cover image? It's got to be something really good or something that is, a picture of our family or something that's scenic. And a lot of times my photos are just like, really quick and off the cuff and, oh, I want to get a picture of my kid because they're doing something silly or,
Well, heck yeah.
and so in that case, I wish I had a little bit more, forethought to be like, oh, I want to take a really nice picture I can use on the cover or something like that.
You're like, "Dang it." Do you find that, like, you have an iPhone or something like that, that it takes, like, decent quality that you can put it in some of those books and it still prints out pretty okay?
I think so. I mean, my iPhone's pretty old. I think it's like an 11
Yeah.
or something like that. And I'm going to use it for as long as I possibly can before I get a new one. But at the same time, I mean, newer phones have better cameras
Yeah,
and can do a lot more things and, better quality and probably can take better pictures in lower light situations. So,
totally.
um, maybe it would be worthwhile to get a better phone. But I think the quality is there anyways for photo books. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
looking for really high quality. It doesn't need to be very big. And it also depends on the photo book company because there's some that will just take your photos right off of Facebook and use them. And Facebook photos are not high res like
No.
that's. So if they can do that and it still looks okay, then I don't think, I need to be too worried about it.
It'll be that, like, vintage flair in 30 years where, like, your kids are looking through it and they're like, "Wow, I love that grain in that photo. How do I get that? That's amazing." Oh, that's the 11 iPhone, okay?
hmm Oh man, I know. I often wonder what I'm going to look back on and our kids are going to be like, "Oh, that's so cool," or things I actually, regret or wish were better. But I think I just need to be in the moment and just enjoy it. So,
Heck yeah, it goes by too fast.
mhm. Yeah, especially when you get to go to places and see new things. It's like, I don't wanna just be staring at a screen the whole time, right? Like,
Yeah,
I wanna be able to enjoy it and just, just feel it and breathe it in and be able to enjoy it without having to feel like I'm on a job working and needing to get, like, the best possible photos for whatever.
it's very true.
Mhm. Lastly, if you could design or redesign, I should say, any iconic logo you've seen, what would it be?
Hmm. Honestly, I think it sounds so funny, but I've had, like, a hankering to do, like, a brand for something like a plumber or, um like a fence building company, like construction company, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Something maybe like a bit more blue collar. I think that there's so many great businesses out there, and I'd love to make them look as fantastic as they are. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's a plumber out there and he's a doll of a guy and did his own branding or his wife did it, you know what I mean, 20
Mhm.
years ago. I'd love to help that guy out and spiffy it up before his son takes over the company and transition it into the next generation. You know, that kind of thing. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that kind of like humble story
Mhm.
or where there's a lot of like grit behind. I'd love a client like that. That'd be a dream.
And I bet you could do a great job at it too. But if there was like a famous logo out there already, that's already out in the public that you know of, like, is there anything like that where you're like, "That could be better?" Like, for me, I would change the Spotify logo.
Oh,
Because you see the square and the 3 little lines, and it's not the 3 little lines are not straight, but they're not on enough of an angle. It's just kinda in between where it's ambiguous, and that
yeah.
drives me nuts. So that would be the one I would change personally, but is there any that are out there that you're like, "Oh, that could be better. I could
You know
change
what?
that."
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head, and I have to be honest. The logo is great, but I'm not so fixated on the logo. I'm like, it's almost there's the logo and then there's like the whole especially now, it feels like we're in this really cool era where yes, brands have logos and yes, they have this, but it's almost the personality of the brand is becoming more what we're looking at. You know what I mean? Like, okay, what are their campaigns? Like, how are they talking to their audience? Like, what is yes, the visuals, but all of the other things. Like, how are they building all of that out? So I think
Mhm,
there's a lot of companies like that that I'm kind of taking mental notes from where I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." And then other ones where you're like, "They could be doing a lot more.
mhm,
They could be taking some notes and I think it could really elevate them," that kind of thing. So I feel
mhm.
like that's more what gets me than the logo, to be honest.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting. I like that you said that because I wasn't expecting that, and now that you've mentioned it, I'm like, "Okay, yeah, 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 I can see where she's coming from," especially when there's, like, so much that goes into the reputation of a brand or the atmosphere that is put out because of what they do, you know?
100%.
I like that, yeah, it's interesting to see all the different facets of branding and things like that and to hear
Right?
your perspective on it. Um, is there do you think you see the world differently because you're a designer now?
Probably, it's probably tainted. I'm probably because 'cause I'm thinking but I don't know if it's different or it's just like through each lens. Like I'm sure you look at uh, even like photography, or you look at like a certain setting and you're like, that would be a really neat like area for a photo shoot, or this would be like a really cool building to have in the back. You know what I mean? Like that, I feel
Mhm.
like that's how my brain works, where if I see a texture or a color palette or just something that I'm like, that's really cool. I got to put that like in my screenshot file and save that for a later project. Even honestly, right now or just past all those Black Friday emails. I don't know if your email is like flooded with Black
Not too
Friday
much. I
campaigns.
often
Good
unsubscribe to
job.
everything.
You're ahead of the
Don't
curve.
tell anyone.
But I found it so interesting. I opened a few of them, and it's like some of them so many stock standard, right? And then there's like the odd one where they're doing something and it gets you and you know that it's getting you, you know what I mean? And I'm like, that is so impressive. Like how I'm kind of like trying to break down, okay, how did they get me? Like what were they
Mhm.
doing that genuinely got me and it didn't feel kind of cheesy or a little slimy?
And
I
then you can
think
just
that
file that
that's the way
away.
that gets me.
That's pretty cool. I find sometimes the opposite is true for me. Like instead of having a positive experience,
Mm.
sometimes like if friends have taken photos, they'll be a little hesitant, like to show them to
Oh,
me, like just
yeah,
vacation
yeah, yeah.
photos, um, and they'll be like, don't judge them." I'm like, I'm not going to judge them. That's the furthest thing from my mind. I just want to enjoy them, right? Like I don't think people know. I can turn that off.
Yeah.
Although sometimes if like Adam and I are watching a movie or something like that, sometimes it creeps in where you're like, oh, there's a, inconsistency there, or that's a really bad lighting, or but
I
most
love
times, most times it's fine. Most times we can turn it off and,
just
but
enjoy
it's
it.
it's funny how it does sometimes creep into your normal life. Like if we're at a restaurant and they have a menu with like terrible, terrible photos, we
Oh,
will
yeah.
be like, these are awful photos. But we won't say it to anyone, just to each other, just to laugh at it. But you know, most of the time I can just be like a normal person, not have to like think through the photography of things or how I see things. Yeah.
Right? It's like a work setting and then a
Yeah.
everyday
Yeah.
setting. Yeah,
Yeah. For sure. For sure. But yeah, there is a little bit of influence there. Anyways,
100%. No, definitely.
cool. I love this conversation. I love hearing about your company and what you've done to do, build up your graphic design. And like I've seen your work on your website and I've seen it in the projects we work together on. So that's pretty cool. And I want people to like know who you are so that if
Oh my
anyone
gosh, thank
needs
you.
graphic design, you're the great person to go to get that done. So I will include it in the notes, but how do you kind of like get your name out there? I know I keep asking questions because I said, I'm like
No,
three
that's okay.
questions ago, I'm like, this is my last question. But like, how do you market yourself? Just out of curiosity, like, how do you get your name out there?
I know. I feel like did we talk about this even when we went out for lunch? I feel like this is
Maybe.
something that I'm always so curious about because I have a bunch of friends now that are freelancers as well, and this is something we talk about all the time.
Mhm.
Um, And I find recently I've been going to a few networking sessions and stuff. There's been some really awesome ones in kind of Waterloo Kitchener area. But I find it is quite funky. Like I've gotten a lot of like word of mouth and past clients kind of coming back, that kind of thing. But it seems like everyone kind of does it a little bit differently. And I definitely I think that's one of the parts of my business that I'm forever working on improving. Okay, who are the best kind of matches for me? Who are the best people that they and I work best together, and how do I find them, and what's the best way to go about that? So I don't know. How about you? What have you found? Because you've been in the business much longer than I have.
Okay, so I have done a bit of the networking thing,
Yeah,
and I still do it occasionally. But like, it's tricky because it's not just anybody I'm appealing to. It's
yeah,
specifically business people, first of all. And it's people that are like in medium to larger size companies. I don't do a ton of work with smaller businesses like entrepreneurs or whatever, because they just don't have like the marketing budget.
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah,
But like agencies or companies that have marketing departments, that's my key demographic there.
I love that.
And so some of the ways I've gone about getting work is like reaching out specifically to those people in those companies. Like I'd find them on LinkedIn. That's the creative director for this agency, or this
Yeah,
is the marketing director for that company. And then trying to, connect with them, whether it be on LinkedIn, or if I'm lucky enough to find an email address, which is
True.
hard to come by, maybe emailing them and like trying to introduce myself or say something that I like about what they're already doing. And if I'm lucky enough, sometimes I'll get like a coffee date with them and just to say hello. Like I have in the past said, "Hey, can I drop a coffee off at your work for you and just say
Uh,
hello?" That way there's like no pressure to spend a lot of time with me, but
yeah.
they get a free drink out of it and it's just like a quick hello usually and I'm in front of their faces. So like I think a lot of it comes down to working with people you know and people you like and that are reliable and do good work. So I could be the best photographer out there, but if nobody knows about me, then they're not going to hire me. And so I need to keep refreshing people's minds and saying, look, I'm out here if you need me. And so some of that comes down to, having coffee with them or sending out my newsletter, which I've just started doing this year,
Oh, okay.
which is a new thing. Uh, Now I've started this interview thing where I am trying to interview people that I've worked with that are really interesting in the creative industry, people that have ties to marketing and advertising, right? So I'm hoping that because of it, you know, it'll be able to get me in front of their audience
Yeah,
if they
definitely.
share it. So that will introduce me to new people that I don't know and also give me a little bit of credibility for
Yeah.
having my own, whether it be podcast or blog article about them or whatever it may be. So that's something else I'm doing right now. And I have tried some Google ads. I have not been super successful with them, but maybe I'm not doing it right. I don't know. But I would say the majority of work that I get is word of mouth.
That's
So
fair.
once I get a client, they usually stay with me because they like the work and I'm easy to work with, and then they'll tell other people about me when their friends need a photographer. So that's been super successful for me as
That's
well.
outstanding. You have such stunning work too, and even I find your website, like, I know you just refreshed it. I find it you go on and easily speaks to kind of the quality that you're able to put out. So for me, it's like if you have someone that has great portfolio that I can look at instantly and see that, and then also have like a reference, like let's say someone sees this podcast and one of my friends that's also freelance, they need someone like that. They're like, amazing, Amy worked with her, it was a great experience, and I can already see her work is exactly what I'm looking for. That's like
Mhm,
money in the bucket, stunning, let's run
mhm.
with that. It's like a guarantee, which is really nice.
Another thing I've tried doing lately, and this is fairly recent, um, is when I updated my website, I tried to think of the pain points of my
Oh
potential
yes.
clients and be
Yep.
like, well, what is it that they really need? What are their problems? And how could I be the one to solve them?
Like, yeah.
So some of the text that I put on my website has to do with that, whereas like, is this happening to you? Do you need to update this? And then appealing to the fact that I'll make it easy for them and I'll take care of all this photography stuff that they don't want to have to deal with and, how it will elevate their brand and things like that. So I'm hoping that will help, but I'm not really a marketing person per se,
No, I
but
love that.
I think I think it's much better than having a website that says, "Look how great I am," because nobody cares. Nobody
No, it
cares.
is true. At the end of the day, someone's just looking for a guide and an expert, right? That they can hire and you can do
Mhm.
what you're great at and you can elevate their brand or their
Exactly.
deliverable. Yeah, no, definitely.
Everybody is just thinking about themselves, and
Yeah,
I'm not to say that negatively, but it's the truth, and so when people are looking for a photographer, they're thinking, "Okay, how is this gonna, you know, be beneficial to me? Like, what are
100%.
they bringing to the table that will make my life easier and get the job done that I need to do for my client," kind of thing. So, I'm trying to speak a little bit more to that than I used to. So I'm hoping that gets people's attention and makes it more likely that they'll contact me for the photography they need.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think that's awesome, especially if there's someone that didn't know you and just found you off Google,
Mhm.
like SEO or whatnot, that you're already answering all of kind of their biggest questions that they might have or concerns or whatnot. That's
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing is you need to have some credibility, right?
yeah.
So, another thing that works towards this goal is my Google reviews. And like I have a very high Google review rate. So that's good. And people have commented on that. But not only that, I have a lot of like people that have made reviews on Google. And I specifically asked people at the end of a job, hey, could you give me Google review and I send them a link so to make it easy, like just so that they'll go right there. And I say bonus points if you post some of our photos. And
Oh, I
sometimes they
love
do.
that.
So that's been very helpful because people have actually commented on my Google review. And then I can use those testimonials in other marketing
Yeah.
materials. So like the newsletter or my website or whatever it may be.
I love that. That's so smart. I actually just started doing that because I was
Mhm.
like, this is something that I'm missing out on that I'm looking at other people's businesses that I'm hiring or looking to hire like a plumber or whatnot. I'm looking at their Google reviews. So why wouldn't someone do the same for me kind of thing? Yeah.
Absolutely. But like anything you get, like any reviews you get will never compare to an actual referral from someone.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Because people will often say really nice things about you online, but to have someone who you actually know say, you should try this person
Hmm.
is so much more influential. So if you can get people doing that, and I don't know how, I mean, people have referred me in the past, but I don't know how to get more people to do it.
Yeah.
So I got to figure that out.
I had someone, a real estate agent one time send an email after she was kind of done and nicely, and like such a lovely, eloquently worded email, be like, if you'd like, you can write a Google review, like helps me find my next buyer, whatnot. And then also telling your friends if they're in need of my services, that is kind of the ultimate seller. And even just her pointing that out, it's something that, yes, of course, that makes complete sense and that's so smart. But I think just reminding people that that's how you
Mhm.
get business, or that's a big kind of funnel for you, I think is something that I forget about that seems really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Yeah. I 100% agree. And the more referrals, the better, I say. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's it for my interview with you. I don't have any more questions, but I think I learned a lot. And I feel like this has probably been one of the longest interviews I've had in it, which speaks to the fact that I have found it so interesting.
Oh, I love
And
that. I was like, I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
I mean, you're taking so long to answer your questions.
No,
No, I'm
yeah.
just joking. No, it's been good. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like we've gotten into more specifics about how each of us, does things in our business.
Heck yeah.
And sometimes when I'm in an interview and I ask a question, it feels like the answer might be a little surface level, but I feel like I've learned more specific things about how you do your job and, whether it be this software or tools or the way you plan for, to make things have an emotional impact or
Heck yeah.
whatever it may be, like your workflow and things like that. It's so interesting to hear your side of things because I'm not a graphic designer. I don't know. So it's great to have your perspective on it, is all I'm saying.
No, no, thank you for having me. I love this. Even I love hearing about yours. I feel like even when we work together, it was really awesome to kind of be a part of your process.
Mhm.
And that gives me even more insight for working with you again or working with another photographer. Like,
Mhm.
hey, okay, these were some things that I found helped, or maybe were me being a bugger to you, kind of thing that I should stop doing.
No, it was all good. I had a great experience working with you. So
I love that. Thank you
hopefully
so much. You as well.
there's more of that in the future. I look forward to working with you again.
Like, yeah, that was a fun one. So now I'm like,
Yeah.
hopefully the next one's equally as fun.
All right. Well, you have yourself a wonderful day. And I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you so much. You as well. Happy Friday.
All right. See you later. This podcast is produced by Tay Photography. Yes, that's me, still behind the camera and the mic. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow the show, leave a comment or rating, and share it with someone who'd love it too. It really makes a difference. And if you need commercial photography that actually grabs attention instead of getting lost in the scroll, get in touch. My goal is to take the chaos out of commercial shoots and turn them into a smooth, easy process. You can find me online at tay.ca or on Instagram at tay_creatives. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Stay weird, stay wonderful.